This is video 2 of week 1. Why is it interesting to study multilingualism? The first reason is to know this human reality and its effects, since most people, but not all of course, are multilingual. So to be multilingual is the natural state of linguistic lives. The study of multilingualism also can shed light over the cognitive capacities of humans, as well as how humans use language to construct their reality and live their lives. We also will understand how language is learned and processed so that we can debunk some misconceptions about neuromyths associated with multilingualism. And by that, I mean things like things that you hear sometimes or see written sometimes. For example, infants exposed to 2 languages suffer incomplete or delayed language acquisition. And let's see what you need to know what truth there is to that claim. Or, for example, at the other side of the spectrum, multilinguals are cleverer than monolinguals. So these are things that you might encounter in your readings or even in your conversations or something. So if you need to have clear ideas about what we know about multilingualism in order to be able to have an intelligent, informed conversation about that. And finally, because learning more about multilingualism helps improve methods of learning an additional language. And learning an additional language is something that many people have as their goal. So why is it interesting to study multilingualism also? It's because it is a socially relevant topic. The subject is controversial and frequently discussed in the context of socially sensitive issues such as immigration, civil rights, or education. Every time there's a discussion, a public discussion about that, somehow multilingualism comes up. So, for example, even in subtle ways like accented speech and other frequent signs of multilingualism are oftentimes associated with lower socioeconomic status, failure or resistance to integrate in the community, and such. So learning more about these frequent prejudices can help us build a fairer society. So multilingualism is a hot topic in many discussions, not only in linguistic discussions, but many social discussions, political discussions, etc. And it's also in conversations that people encounter in their daily lives, especially people who are multilingual or whose children are multilingual or who are trying to become multilingual. So here in this slide, I'm giving you just an example of the kind of issues that multilingual people might encounter. A few years ago, I made some study looking at parents' forums in which they were trying to deal with the different issues that they encounter in raising their children multilingual. And we made a list of about 700 topics that the parents would present. And those are messages like the one that I present to you here. So let's take a look. And this is a real example, right? So let's read with me. So we are a trilingual family. Dutch, dad from plus environment, meaning that they're in a Dutch environment and the father is Dutch. Slovene, my language, and that means that the one that is writing this post is the mother or the other father maybe. And then English, me and my husband, right? So they are a trilingual family, Dutch, Slovene, and English. And then they continue. So my 3-year-old was tested for his language skills in Dutch, only in Dutch. That's the first thing that we encounter. So the kid speaks 3 languages or has 3 languages in his environment, but is tested only for language skills in one of the languages. So effectively, that kid is tested for 1/3 of the language skills, but the conclusions that are going to be derived from that testing are going to be generalized to the whole of the language skills of the kid. So they continue. He scored average on passive language and very low on active language. even though it is a bit hard to believe it, since I hear him use those words on a daily basis. Okay, so here we have the first result. So the kid is tested, remember, in a third of the language skills that it has, or a third of the language environment that he has, and he scores average, which is quite surprising because it should score in the lower third, right? Because it's only for a third of his language, but very low on active language. And the mother casts doubt on that because she hears the kid in the totality of the language ability of the kid, and of course thinks that the test might not be representative of what she observes, but she's not a linguist, of course, right? So she continues and says, well, I want to have him tested by a speech therapist, by a professional, because she says, I'm not a linguist, so I want to test the kid on a professional. And then, because this is a parents forum, she asks any suggestions what to look for, when to actually sound alarm bells about speech delay. And then she buys into the discourse. She says, we know he is behind, but words and phrases that he uses in both languages, actually 3 languages, I suppose, and can translate back and forth. I'm also starting to hear some basic grammar. He tries using past tense in Dutch or dual in Slovenian. I am not very worried. It mostly weirds me out. The kid is trilingual, right? And he's just having basic grammar. Remember, this kid is a 3-year-old using 3 languages, is being tested in one of them. The test results say that he has a problem. The mother disagrees, but is asking for advice. And then she continues. Today, I also heard, she doesn't say from where, I also heard that 3 languages is too much and that I should switch to talking Dutch to my husband. I speak Dutch on a B2 level. We don't really want that, and we won't be switching, but it is annoying to be lectured about. Okay, so not only she runs across an information that tells that 3 languages is too much, and there's no scientific evidence cited for that, and she's also encountering the advice to modify her behavior and the parents' behavior against their will. So for you to know that this is not, we're not talking abstract here, we're talking about very clear cases in which people's lives are affected. And this is why it's important to study the realities of multilingualism to see, on what basis people are advised or even forced in some occasion or judged in all occasions about their linguistic lives. Okay, so I'm going to leave this presentation here so that you can click in that link that I include also in the slide to have other examples about that and about other myths surrounding the fact of multilingualism.